She searched around, passing the several rooms until she finally found him in his personal gym. She was surprised by the size of the room and the amount of equipment stuffed in it. What surprised her even more was that Hayden had been exercising on the seated chest press machine, and he was shirtless, wearing only his workout shorts. Holy shit. She was mesmerized with his well-sculpted chest. He was ripped. He froze when he spotted her. "What are you doing here?" Hayden got up and crossed the room in a few strides and stopped several inches away from her, making her gasp because of his sudden movement. They were almost touching. She tried to put the distance between them, but he caught her arm, making her unable to move. His fingers felt like steel, and his strength frightened her. "Please, let me go. I just came here to talk." "We have nothing to talk about. What are you still doing in my place?" She tried to pull her hand out of his grasp, but with no success. "I just wanted to say that I crossed the line back there." It was too embarrassing for her to say this, but she swallowed her pride and continued. "I shouldn't have tried to provoke you just because I don't like you. It wasn't okay, so I will stick to your questions next time." "You can be damn sure it wasn't, right? I don't like you either, but I won't act like a brat when I have a task to finish." He frowned. "And what do you mean by my questions?" "I mean, I know that you chose which questions are allowed and which issues are sensitive and not supposed to be talked about in this interview." He bored his spiteful eyes into her. "What the hell are you talking about?" Why was he pretending he doesn't know what was going on? It made her crazy that he would play dumb like this. "I know that you have sent a list of questions for this interview. I have to stick to those questions, clearly avoiding your recent issues with your fiancé. Pardon, ex-fiancé now." If he was angry before, he was mad now. He pushed her towards the wall and moved his body so close that it was flush with hers. Despite the threatening move, Jessica couldn't stop admiring the perfect lines of his face now that she got to see him close up. His blue eyes were almost black in rage, and for some twisted reason, Jessica began throbbing down there. She was surprised by the sudden arousal. She imagined him kissing her and her eyes locked on his full, soft lips. What bullshit is this? He was almost yelling now and grabbed her other hand, pulling her arms above her head. "I didn't send any goddamn list of questions to anyone. I don't even know what those fucking questions are." Her breasts are now completely pressed against his hard chest, and she felt her nipples hardening against her will. She didn't want to feel this desire, and she was angry at her body for betraying her. He was just too hot for his own good, and Jessica couldn't remember when the last time any man had managed to make her so aroused she was on the verge of losing her common sense. It seemed that he finally noticed her arousal, and her face became red like a beetroot. For a moment, both of them couldn't breathe at all. She expected him to make a sneering comment or do something to embarrass her. Instead, she was taken aback when he touched one sensitive bud through the thin material of her dress, while still holding her hands above with his other hand. Hayden moved his thumb over her nipple, and she began panting. His voice was thick with desire when he spoke. "No bra, huh?" He pulled the strap of her dress down her shoulder, revealing her plump, soft breast. He groaned and pressed his mouth against her hard bud. She arched her back, pressing herself into him. She couldn't think rationally anymore. She felt his hard arousal on her stomach, and the knowledge that she did that to him made her feel powerful. Jessica desperately needed to touch him, to feel his skin, but he was holding her firmly and wouldn't let go. "Hayden," she moaned, "please." He arched his head and looked at her, his mouth still on her sensitive breast. She tried to decipher the heat she saw in them, so opposite from the usual coldness. This time, there was no anger in them, only desire. "What, baby? Tell me what you want." His voice was so raspy and deep. "I want to kiss you, please." Hayden smiled honestly for the first time, and she couldn't breathe for a moment, her heart squeezing painfully. He was truly beautiful when he smiled for real. The corners of his mouth would twist gorgeously, revealing a set of perfectly white teeth, and his eyes would crinkle